Welcome, my friends, to another episode of Let's Talk About the League. We are on the eve of the final week of Split 7 regular season. A lot of tiebreakers potentially, a lot of interesting situations between teams all fighting for playoff spots, fighting for seeding. Should be really, really exciting coming up to this final week, which unfortunately I myself will not be able to be a part of, but don't let that deter you from still checking in. I am joined tonight by Sig Tau Eternal, our great commissioner, and a special guest tonight from White Wolf Gaming, top lane extraordinaire, Great Beard of Odin. Infinite, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Not too bad.
Yeah? Nothing eating away, nothing new?
No, I don't know if I have any like spicy flame for anyone this week. Actually, I'll think about it. There's time.
That's crazy. Yeah. Come up with something. Let's get some kindling in there. All right. Odin, how you doing? How you feeling?
Oh, just fantastic. I'm glad to be back, and don't worry, Infinite. I always bring the spice, so if you don't have any tonight, I got some for us.
That's fair.
All right, awesome. Well, first of all, just want to give a shout out our Lord and Savior, Sig Tau Lord himself. Not feeling 100% this week, but still willing to stream and coordinate things for us. So big shout out to him for that. As we get into reviewing last week's games, week 4, there was, at least for me, there was a lot of surprises. But I'll start off with you, Infinite. With Option 12 versus Northern Storm, was there anything particular that stood out for you? Or I guess just in general, what were your thoughts on this series?
Hell yeah, something stood out. Option 12, I guess they tuned into the podcast because they decided to try some non-conventional stuff. I thought it was pretty cool. And then Prowler pulled out the Varus pick out of nowhere. And has he just been... Prowler, if you're watching, have you just been sandbagging your games? Because... when did you learn how to play ADC? Now, overall, I thought these were extremely fun games. The entire night most of the night proved to be pretty entertaining. And these first 2 games I thought were especially interesting because O12, despite everything, was able to come back and just kind of show us something that we hadn't seen in the entire split up to this point. So I really enjoyed it.
All right. What about you, Rudy? Did anything excuse me, Rudy, I call you Rudy. Odin, for the other viewers out there. What did you think of this series?
Yeah, so I was excited to see what Option 12 did. My big criticism from the past couple of weeks is how they've been drafting their team comps with not having like a cohesive way to play like team fights, with some people wanting to dive versus others who want just a straight front to back. And this week it looks like they really did address that. More just focusing on one type of play style, and it looks like it really paid off for them. And I think that's the biggest change around that's been holding them back has just been their drafting, and it looks like they're starting to get on that right page here, and hopefully they carry it out into the next week.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Option 12 for just keeping that mental composure. Because, well, first of all, I'm going to shit on them a little bit. They lost 5 games in a row coming into this last week. And then they were down 10-1 in kills. A bot lane dive went terribly. They were down about 5k gold. And after all of that, how do you keep your composure to somehow end up 2-0ing in that week? It sounds ridiculous, but they did. And I think that's very impressive to be able to keep your head straight. So, I think that they had a frontline advantage. I think that the combination of Hecarim and Ornn, they were just more disruptive in the front line than Jarvan, Eat Your Heart Out, Kenneth, and Poppy were. So I think that team fights, they were pretty crazy, but they were always tilting in the way of Option 12 because of the front line being more disruptive on their part. Moving on to 9 Lives versus White Wolves. I'll start with you this time, Odin. Did you have any particular you played in this series. What stood out to you while being in the midst of it?
Yeah, so what stood out is, how well they came out swinging. Like this team has got 3 new players trying to fit in with 2 players who are on the team, and a lot of your synergy kind of just goes out the window when you just have 3 new players thrown in 3 days before the match. So big props to them, and big props to Wraith Ghost and Idol for sticking with the team after they had 3 members quit out on them like that. I know that's a tough situation, but yeah, I was really impressed with how much they came out swinging. And that first game, they almost caught us there. They had us in that early game, but then we managed to pull it back and then kind of botch a Baron play. And luckily, they didn't force that end on us, because they could have taken that game if they were just a little bit more aggressive. But yeah, I'm excited to see what they do this week, and I'm just kind of disappointed that we didn't version of 9 Lives from week 1, because they would have been, I think, a good team with a little more practice.
Yeah. And that the game 1 in particular, game 2 was interesting still, but it was relatively one-sided. Game 1 though was very, I think even. There was a seesaw. There was a lot of back and forth on, I believe 9 Lives. They had, Elder and Baron at one point. You guys had it at one point, but there was one particular dragon fight where I thought that 9 Lives, they looked in control of the game, and then you came in, not to polish you up too much, but you came in with an Urgot ult that really, in my opinion, changed the tone of the game. And I believe we have a clip here where, it was the Urgot ult, 1 execute, and then you flashed in for a Fear on 3. And I believe we have a clip here where, it was the Urgot ult,
So
1 execute, and then
that play was pretty hype. All I know is I'm a little salty. One of my teammates stole my penta. I would have had it there, but
across most of the team, looks like Chansey will
that
drop
play was
as
pretty hype.
well.
All I know is
comes
I'm a
back.
little salty.
I don't
One of my
think he
teammates
can
stole my
solo carry
penta.
this fight, though, despite how much
I would have had it there, but
Quadra kill for Odin here on this.
Look, the Penta. Oh, wait, nope. Just kidding.
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't actually see a pentasteel there, but it was that was a pretty sick play. I got to admit, I love seeing Urgots catch the person on the harpoon basically, and then flash afterward. It's almost a "you're trapped in here with me" moment. Infinite, did you have any particular thoughts on this series? How you think it went?
So yeah, a couple of pointers. One, Odin, I think after week 1, I don't know. I'm glad to see you just popping off. Like I kept saying that I knew you probably could. Especially with like Urgot. If teams are gonna keep letting you get Urgot, just keep steamrolling, man. It's you play insane on him. But then like they have to ban Shin too, because game 2 just showed. Yeah, it's good job from your all's team. But I actually kind of want to talk more about 9 Lives, because I kind of was, I kind of had you all pegged to maybe even lose these games after I saw the new 9 Lives roster. And even though they lost, this is a team that, kind of on the fly had a lot of their players replaced. And I don't know if anyone else agrees with this, but at least in my opinion, I kind of felt like the jungle and top lane that stuck around, I feel like they played different. I feel like they played better. I don't know if they, just kind of had a little more freedom or meshed well with these other players, but they decided they didn't, they weren't ready to call it quits, and they came out swinging. And I was kind of shocked by that, because I really thought the only struggle was going to be in the bot lane. But in my opinion, they performed well all around. Like every single position performed pretty well. So that's why that first game was so back and forth, because you didn't really see a huge weak spot on the side of 9 Lives. And it wasn't until White Wolf kind of adapted their gameplay that changed the game 2 outcome. Odin, feel free to chime in and tell me that you disagree, but
Yeah, no, I think that's a pretty fair analysis there. Like the original 9 lines we saw, it was very bot lane focused. You're playing for us. You're playing champions that are gonna impact Wally versus we don't care what you play. Versus I played a lot with a lot of these other guys that got slotted in with Huge and Andy, and they're pretty chill players where it's like, okay, let's just have some fun. Play champions that you think are gonna fit well. And play your game versus just playing protect the ADC, and I think that really let them shine a bit and give them a little more priority and way to just have fun with the game versus just I'm 4 wards here to protect my my ADC.
Awesome. All right, well, our last series of last week was Blitzkrieg versus Phoenix, which ended up being a little bit more one-sided than I personally expected. I don't want to speak for anybody else, but I mean, what can I say? Blitzkrieg, man, like 7 straight wins as far as if I'm not incorrect, ever since losing game 1 of week 1, that it's been really impressive, and even more for me, it's been fun to watch. They've been playing some aggressive, interesting compositions, fun champions, and when I think about this series, I think about maybe Phoenix just not being on the right page with some of their team compositions, because Pointy Ball was popping off on Zoe in game 1. I believe he got 2 kills real early in the Rift Herald pit, and then just a few minutes later he picked up another couple kills with some good plays. But the composition didn't really look like it was the type of composition where Zoe can really feast. Because with Zoe, you want to have skirmishes, you want to fight in the jungle so that trouble bubble can really take advantage of the terrain and things like that. Whereas most of the fights that I remember, at least, were in the river, in lanes, not really taking advantage of Zoe's strengths as a champion. So I think that Blitzkrieg played very well, but I also think that Phoenix could maybe do a little more homework. I'll go to you first, Infinite. What did you think of this series?
I disagree with a lot of the choices Phoenix made. We know that Blitzkrieg is an extremely good team, performing well, just not well, performing great in all of these games. And especially with the Shin Nocturne game that they played. Here's that flame. I said I kind of forgot, but Eternal was kind enough to remind me as the first post that I saw in the Twitch chat. I really did not like the Nocturne Shin play. It seemed too new to be effective. A good example is probably the first time that we see Shin use his ult in that game. It's completely unnecessary and more just like, well, we saw Nocturne going in, so we're gonna use this as well. And then it just like that one was unnecessary. And then after that, it just didn't really work out anymore. So I didn't like that kind of pick into a team that was already going to be so hard for you all for them to play against. Because I know that the Shin play for Eternal is something new. I would have liked to have seen something more aggressive so we could actually see the as Sigtal Lord always likes to call it, the Eternal anime play out. I keep saying Garen, play your main. I think that would have been a cool game to see how that matched out. But even past that, I feel like a lot of the momentum was just completely lost after that first game and kind of just played into the second one. I don't think this is necessarily completely indicative of how they're going to do next week. But I don't know. I really didn't like the let's try some really weird new stuff when it's a game that kind of mattered a lot.
Sure. All right. Odin, did you have any particular thoughts on this series?
Also, you're not Odin Eternal, so like, come on, we already have a Shin player.
Okay, yeah. So I had a lot of thoughts in this series too.
A lot of thoughts. Let's go.
A lot of thoughts. So the first and biggest issue is this team comp. You have like the Shen Nocturne that want a hard dive versus a Zoe that wants fights that are poke.
Yep.
You're playing two completely
Hard
two
agree.
different complete styles, and it's like, okay, well, you got these two styles, and you're just kind of half-assing both of them. And so the Nocturne Shen thing is a combo that I very much enjoy. It's one that me and Prowler started doing back when we were on a team together, and we had a lot of success with it. But it's a comp that you have to be aggressive constantly. The instant those ults are up, you need to be looking to pull that trigger, and they just weren't finding those opportunities. Like, you need to be hard slamming bot every chance those ults are up. That's why you picked the Shen Nocturne, is to constantly 4-man that bot lane and blow the game out from there. We didn't really see that, and they completely ignored the Kale. Just not realizing what the other team's win conditions were. And the Kale is basically another Nasus for you just can't let this champion power farm, because then it's just going to become unkillable. And then we kind of see similar issues in game 2, drafting comps kind of all over the place. They could have won that game, I think, if they would have built around the Nasus. He was getting to a point where he could have won the game, but they didn't give him the tools to keep him alive. But I'd much rather have seen something with healing or speed ups coming out of the bot lane instead of the Imperial Mandate Ashe, which I felt was pretty troll since that item is garbage now. So there's no reason to be building it. If they would have been like a Karma or a Senna bot lane, and just slow down the game, let that Nasus stack, they could have just basically did the old Death Ball comp and just, I think, could have ran over Blitzkrieg, but instead they, built a comp that didn't play to their strengths.
Mm-hmm.
If I can add to that, actually, because I actually forgot I had a point on that game too. Because you're completely right. If they had just drafted a little bit better, they would have had a chance. But I don't actually think it would have made any difference, because one of the biggest issues, and I called this out during the stream with that Nasus game, is he would go in, try to 1v5, and by the time the rest of his team got there, he was already dead. It didn't matter how hard he hit, how much health he had from his ult and stuff like that. He was usually dead by the time the rest of them engaged. To me, it just felt like, on top of a questionable pick ban option for them, did they turn off comms or something? It just seemed like there was not the good coordination that I've bragged about them having in previous weeks. They're usually really good at rotating together, especially on Alonzi TARDIS whenever he's trying to get objectives. And then this week it just seemed like they were like, let's do these weird things, let's not really talk or coordinate our fights, and we'll just kind of see how it works. So yeah, I don't know what else to say on that, but don't do it again.
yeah, I think definitely a very impressive series by Blitzkrieg, and Phoenix, maybe some lessons to learn going forward. Well, now it's time for one of our new segments this split. Here we are, and we've got a list of Q&A from one of our new members, Princess Peach, support extraordinaire for Northern Storm. So if you're not familiar with this segment, basically we just ask some fun questions, get to know Princess Peach a little bit. So for favorite champion, Princess Peach told us it's Yuumi or Lux. For favorite skin line, we've got the Star Guardian skin line. Totally get that. For pocket pick, actually, it's a little fun. We know Princess Peach is a support player, but when he gets to go mid, he says that Diana is his pocket pick. Flash on F or D? F. Thank you very much. I don't understand why, personally, anyone else goes D, because F for Flash, it just makes sense to me. So far this split, Princess Peach says that he has had the most fun playing against White Wolf, being that it was the first match of the season, being able to go 2-0. And Princess Peach says that he personally loved playing against Option 12 earlier this split, because Prowler was his first GMA friend, and also adores all of their players. So thank you, Princess Peach, for contributing to this segment. I know that you have a lot of fans here, had a lot of fans before you even came here. So it's great to have had you be a part of the LCUS, and I'm glad that we got to know you a little better.
Fun fact, real quick.
Go ahead.
Fun, because I told him I would do this. Fun fact about Peach: he met his best friend playing League 10 years ago.
Oh yeah.
So Yes. They're actually in our Discord chat right now. It's their username on here is Divakin. Am I saying that right? I know it's a Skyrim reference.
That's awesome. That's you always love to hear those stories about people who found somebody, found a friend, found just even an acquaintance, even whatever we all are to each other in the LCUS. It's a special experience, and we're all glad to be a part of it.
That's what
Mortal enemies, sure. Okay. Well, moving on now. The LCUS does not have a sponsor this split, but we do want to take every week in the podcast, we want to take time to talk about an issue that is important to us, and that is mental health, because behavioral health issues affect millions of adolescents and adults in the United States and around the world. Approximately 1 out of every 5 adults in the US have some sort of mental illness. According to 2014 statistics, of the nearly 44 million Americans who are living with a mental health disorder, less than half received any sort of treatment or services. So, in response to that, the LCUS has chosen to take this time every week to highlight the National Mental Health Helpline. It's important. Just save it, share it, use it. This resource is available 24 hours a day, anytime you need it, 365 days a year, and it can help callers find many different types of mental health support in their local area. Furthermore, the National Mental Health Helpline, is free and it's confidential. So if you or someone you know is struggling and in need of help, call 1-800-662-4357. That's 1-800-662-HELP. And thank you very much for supporting us in this mission. Now moving on, we've got week 5 coming up, the final week of this split. It seems like it's been a flash in the pan, but every match matters. And looking ahead now, we've got a lot of potential tiebreakers, a lot of potential seeding issues going into playoffs. So I'll start with you, Infinite. White Wolf versus Blitzkrieg is our first series of this week. What are you thinking?
Am I being brutally honest right now?
Oh, please do. Please do.
I'm thinking that we're seeing spoilers for finals. I'm thinking that both these teams right now are incredibly good, incredibly strong. They're both very high seeds. And I don't know, I'm kind of torn on who's going to come out on top here. So I don't really have a prediction for these games, but I do think that there's 2 ways they play out in my head. One, they're going to be slow, boring ass games to watch because they're just going to be they're just going to be so even that players just don't really want to make a mistake in fear of losing the game straight out. Or 2, they're going to be total freaking bloodbaths where it's like 58 kills in the first 12 minutes, and everyone's just going absolutely crazy. But regardless, I do think that this is maybe one of the most even, I guess, games that we're going to see for a while, just because both these teams are incredibly strong.
So, come on, give me a prediction. 1-1, 2-0, what are you thinking?
Oh my, I every other week, even when I'm like, I don't have one, I usually can at least kind of make one up. I genuinely don't know. Plus, Odin's on here right now, and I don't want him to beat me up later if I don't pick his team. So, like, 1-1. All right. Honestly, I kind of hope it's a 1-1 because if either team gets a 2-0 and I'm right, and this is in fact our 2 finals teams that make it, then we're going to kind of go into it, already feeling like we know the outcome. And I don't want that to be the case. I want this to be a 1-1 that's so even, so, close the entire time in both games that if they both make it to finals, we're just like, oh my gosh, this is going to be best of 5 and they're going to be crazy games. So.
All right. Well, I'm going to let Odin have the last word here, so I'll jump in. And I'll just mirror a lot of what Infinite just said. This is an awesome matchup. These are two teams obviously at the top on really, really hot streaks, but also they have contrasting styles, which I think is so fun. Blitzkrieg, they play so aggressive, so in your face, whereas White Wolf is so patient. They're calculated. And it's awesome to see teams like this go at each other in the last week of the regular season. And I know that they're both already guaranteed to make playoffs. And I know that, we all talk about how playoff seeding doesn't necessarily matter, but I really hope that both these teams go 100% at each other in this series, because I'd love to see, as Infinite said, a potential finals preview. For me, the matchup to watch, assuming everybody goes 100% in these matches, is in the jungle, because I think that we've seen Pistol Crab be so aggressive on these carry-style junglers, get in the face of his counterpart, and meanwhile, been mostly stuck on tank duty. So does White Wolf have to pick, pushing lanes, hard shoving lanes, so that they can be in position to help their jungler to fall back into their jungle if needed? I don't know. It really comes down to how seriously these teams are going to take this, I think. But I hope that they both take it seriously. I'm predicting a 1-1, but I think that Rudy, Greybeard of Odin, might have more insight. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, so honestly, I actually think this is the least hype match for the night, which is, weird to say considering it's the two top teams going at it. But at the end of the day, this last series, it doesn't matter really for each team. It's just for seeding. So I think what's going to end up happening is both teams are just going to want to be testing things out for playoffs to see what works against, another top tier team. So, it kind of all depends on how that testing goes. I know we have, not to spoil anything, but, potential counters that we possibly want to try out, and I think that's what it's going to be. Both teams are just going to be going in, pretty chill, relaxed with where they are in the standings, and wanting to experiment a little bit before, we get to those best of fives, and, really have to button down and focusing in on the games. I think it's going to be a fun, exciting match, but at the end of the day, it's ones that don't matter because it really doesn't have an impact on us. So it's
hell no.
I think it's going to be.
I'm taking the mic. Odin, you're done. I'm taking it from you. No, we're not buying this. First off, let me explain why you're wrong in that thinking. Seeding, it matters, bud. Some of these teams have already proven that they just have a team they don't go well against. And if I remember correctly, you guys aren't undefeated. So I don't know that I'd be just saying we're just not going. Hopefully Blitzkrieg's also just not going to take it seriously, and we'll just kind of all dick off. No.
Hang on. I didn't say we're going to be dicking off. I just say you're not going to be seeing the normal stuff that every team's been pulling, we've been pulling out every week. It's going to be that week to try and experiment a bit, and sometimes when you experiment a bit, sometimes it doesn't go the way you want, and this is the week you want to try out a little bit of tweaks on your normal styles, and it's.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I realize what you're doing now. You're setting up your defense for when you lose to J-Dog. My apologies. I'll stop talking.
Oh, listen here.
All right, I am not going to lose
to a guy who had to come off that last split of his. Yeah, he stepped up this week, but I still gotta make sure to step up myself. I can't lose him after last split. I flame Horizon him in the podcast. I got to make sure I defend myself here because I roasted him pretty good. I can't just back down.
All right, so we got some stakes being laid out. I like it.
Y'all wanted spice. Y'all told me to bring the spice this time, so.
Oh, bring the spice every time. All right, so Rudy, forgive me if I missed it, but what was your prediction for this series? Obviously, you're involved with it. 2-0, 1-1. What are we looking at?
I think it's going to end up being a 1-1. I think, like I said, I think people are going to be trying things out, and when things try out, it can be kind of volatile, and you don't really know how it's going to turn. If it's going to go in your favor, work out really well, or if it just blows up in your face.
And the $1 million question: if it's unbanned, will you finally play Akali?
Well, Akali did get a buff, so she's actually been horribly unviable this entire split, and I just haven't been saying anything about it. But her buff is now putting her in a really good spot, and I've seen what J-Dog plays from like last split to this split and stuff like that, and I got a lot of good matchups there.
So
They
will
leave it
you
off.
play it? Will you play it?
Oh, you're gonna. Well, I'm gonna talk to Ace. We'll have to make sure we get the team comp right. But yeah,
All right.
I want to play it. I need to pull it out. You know, it's this champion I made, and I haven't played it once in the league.
All
Ace, if you're listening and you hold him back from an Akali pick that he wants to play, you're fired from this league. I know it's like
Wait,
yours, and I can't do that, but you're fired.
Yes, it's Ace's fault. He's the one who dictates what I'm allowed to play top lane because he won't let me play things like Rasmus no top at all.
All right. Well, we got to move on. So our second series of the final week of this split will be Northern Storm versus Phoenix. Some playoff implications here. Phoenix trying to fight to, I mean, if they win, or I believe if they even, no, not necessarily if they won one, but if they win, then they are in playoffs. Northern Storm can also guarantee their spot. I'll start with you this time, Rudy, since we came to you this last series. What are you foreseeing for this series?
Oh, I'm predicting, I hate to say it, 2 teams with bad comps going at it, and it's going to be which comp is slightly less worse. I'm not a big fan of these like mages bots because it's I don't. If we look at all the games, I don't think it has a very good win rate compared to like a traditional bot lane. And after the last week Phoenix, hopefully they can pull it together and fix their comps, but at the same time, it doesn't seem like it. They seem like they're on that downward trend. I think we're gonna be able to tell who wins these games pretty quickly just by in the drafts.
All right. About you, Infinite. Any particular predictions?
It depends. So, Phoenix, if they take what we said here tonight, or they just kind of work on some things from last week, they've got it. If Northern Storm, Peach, I know you're listening, so this is for you. Double Moonstone, I don't care how much you think that wasn't the mistake. It was. You all did not have enough damage. So if you do that again, like, congratulations, you're giving Phoenix a win. But if they learn from their mistakes and actually draft some damage onto their team, I'm wrong. Okay, all right. If they actually draft some damage, then they win. So it's really which one of these two teams can fix their mistakes from last week. If they both fix their mistakes, 1-1 on this one as well.
Yeah, no, I agree to that 1-1. Like, we missed the time. I was ready to play him for that double Moonstone, but I'm glad you brought it up because that was a poor decision.
They're still defending it. They're still in chat. They're still defending it right now.
Well, Twitch chat is.
They went 0-2, so I think the results speak for themselves.
Not to sound like a broken record, right off the bat, I'll give away the ending. I, too, am predicting this to be a 1-1. But I'm excited for this series because I think that these are two of the teams with the most variety in how they play. I believe Odin touched on it already. We could end up seeing 3 or 4 mages in the bot lane, all just throwing stupid, slow snares at each other. And everyone will end up with 50 CS at 12 minutes, and it will be like kind of weird, but it'll be also exciting. So I think that these two teams will bring us an interesting series with a lot of lack of predictability. But because of that, I think that a 1-1 is the most likely scenario. On the side of Northern Storm, I think that Bidet and Jester have something to prove because I think they've looked great in the past, especially week 1. I think they looked like maybe the best top jungle duo in the league. But last week they did not look that great. So I think they've got something to prove as they attempt to stamp their ticket to playoffs. Meanwhile, for Phoenix, I'm wondering if there ever becomes a time where you just put all your eggs in the pointy basket, because there have been times throughout this split, specifically last week, where on that Zoe game, Pony Ball was making some great plays, but the comp wasn't built around him correctly, which I believe someone else pointed out earlier. And then in game 2, he landed a couple 3-4-man shockwaves, but there just wasn't any follow-up. So I'm wondering at what point does Phoenix maybe consider going old 9 lives and putting all of their eggs into one basket. So I think it's going to be a 1-1, but I'm excited for the series because it's going to be really weird. There's going to be a lot of unpredictability. I'm excited. Option 12 versus 9 Lives wraps us up. It will be our last series of the regular split this year. Infinite, what do you got?
Oh, dude, 012, you had a good run. It was really fun watching your comeback last week. You guys are so screwed this week. 9 Lives, that's a scary team, dude. And, like, their bot lane, like, nah, dude, no, this is a 209 Live. Sorry. I love a lot of the players on 012. And I was giving them kudos for their performance last week, but yeah, no, I'm pretty convinced this is a 2-0 for 9 Lives. They're just a solid team all around. They played against, obviously one of the two best teams right now with very little practice, very little coordination up to that point. Now they've had some time to work on things, maybe practice, try some comps. Ooh, God, I would not want to be 012 right now.
Yeah, I mean, New Look 9 Lives does look pretty scary to me. I do think, and I know I said this during the cast last week, Andy and Chansey walk on to the LCUS randomly as arguably the scariest bot lane in the league. And I mean, to be fair, they are replacing what was probably the scariest bot lane before them. So it's going to be interesting to see how Option 12 plays around that, because I think that Option 12 solo lanes have looked particularly strong, especially last week with Gregosaurus and Shaken on that Ornn and Nico respectively, or excuse me, I mixed up that order, but y'all know who they played. So I think that Option 12, they're going to have to accrue advantages in their solo lanes, because I really think that the bot lane is going to be a scary proposition for them to play against. I am happy to see Option 12 get some resurgence, regain some footing after last week, but I just think that this 9 Lives team looked really, really good, even while getting 0-2'd last week, after only a couple days of practice, or maybe not even practice, of just knowing that they were on a team together. And after a full week, I think they're going to be a force to be reckoned with, so I am going to predict a 2-0 9 Lives. Odin, it's on you. What do you think?
Whew. So, I like where Option 12's been going, but I don't think it's going to be enough. At the end of the day, I think it's really going to come down to bot lane, and Andy gets scary if he gets any kind of lead. It's really going to depend on the pick and bans. I'm going to give Option 12 a little bit of a quick tip here. Don't let Andy be on anything mobile, because if he can dip in and out of fights, he is going to make you pay for it. And they've been playing together well. And then at the end of the day, based on last week, 9 Lives just played, even though 9 Lives lost and Option 12 won, I think 9 Lives looked better last week than Option 12 still did. And going in this week, I think Option 12 has got an uphill battle for themselves. It's going to be a banger, and I really hope either one of these teams can make it, because I believe it's make or break for either of them to get in the playoffs with a little bit of luck from the game before them. And I think it can make things pretty interesting. But yeah, I'm going to give it to 9 Lives as well.
All right. Yeah, so as Odin just alluded to, we do have some playoff scenarios up in the air, but it will largely depend on the second set. If Phoenix gets 2-0'd by Northern Storm, then we could potentially have a 3-way tie, at which point it will go down to average time of victory for the 3 teams involved. So hopefully that doesn't happen. You'd like to see a team earn their spot to playoffs outright, but who knows what's going to happen. It's been a crazy split. It's a crazy league. Excited to be a part of it. And the last week will start at 5:30 this Sunday, 5:30 Central Time. That is White Wolf Gaming versus Blitzkrieg to start things off. Northern Storm versus Phoenix following up, and the nightcap Option 12 versus 9 Lives. We hope that you're there to join us. Really enjoyed you joining us tonight, and we hope that you all enjoy the evening. Thank you.